go to the back and
hello. Hello.
I'll go back there and I'll let you know if it's working or not.
Yeah.
Either way, that will only be for the people on the back, in case they don't, because otherwise it will cause feedback.
Yeah, that's okay. But you can tell me if it's working.
Yeah.
Then also, okay. So you're starting now? My laptop is on the computer. Just really briefly. I don't know if you want to. I don't know anything. It's working? No, yeah. It's good? Loud enough, or should I talk enough again? Checking. It's not working? I speak. But I have to speak now a bit more. I want to start actually, but we're testing the microphone in the back, that the people can hear us well in the back as well. So I have to keep on talking. Is it working now? Yeah, now I hear it. Yeah, okay, now I can hear myself as well. So yeah, it's no feedback. So if you can hear it in the back, I don't need to hear myself. That's all well. And I anyway just start now. And we will start with the critique section, the good, the bad, and the ugly. As we introduced already everywhere. And yeah, it's nice to see so many faces already here. I think more will be arrived while we're studying with that. So I will briefly introduce Dave Matthijs. Matthijs, sorry, it's a German name. He's also running a DataVis meetup in America, so it's pretty cool. He's here, and we will do this critique. So just introduce yourself if you want for words, and we just switch over.
See all this technology right here.
It's interactive, no? Like the people will please.
You have to see that you don't put your screen in front of the beam.
Oh, yes. Oops, oh, yeah. That would do it. Okay. Hola, everyone. So I am from a place that's really cold right now. It's like -20 Celsius. So it's so I'm really happy to be here in Portugal. I'm actually here with a group called Remote Year. One of my fellow remotes, Shahina, right over there. Raise your hand, Shahina. Actually, Shahina used to work at LinkedIn, and she's on a little sabbatical right now. So, but we're both people that come from a product background. So my history of getting into data visualization has been more on the product innovation side and understanding that data to tell the story, to try to get your message out there, is good data visualization does that. So that's a little bit of my background. So one thing we do as part of our data visualization meetup is we start out each of the sessions with a critique. And so this is the interactive portion when to get people going. So this is the place where you're going to jump in, you're going to say why something's great or something sucks, and so we're looking for some feedback here. So we're going to start out, a lot of pictures are being taken. So we're going to start out with this data visualization selfie city. And so I'm scrolling down here, and this is an example. So it has by different cities, actually, selfies that were taken, and it's done different analysis. So you can actually click on or go over these, and you'll get to some different selfies that were there. You'll understand, in this case, age. Now, of course, if I scroll away from it, that goes away, that axis. I'm just going to jump down here a little bit too. Here, they've categorized things as, is the face happy? Is it angry? Is it sort of neutral faces too? So they actually did some Mechanical Turk. So when they, were trying to classify in this case. So what are your thoughts on a data visualization like this? I mean, we see a lot of these that are like the New York Times or other things that are trying to relate information. They try to do a lot of things. What are your thoughts about this data visualization? Any passion on this one? Good? Okay. Well, what do you like about it?
It's intuitive.
Okay.
It's figure quickly what was what, and it will give you an overview of what you are looking for.
Yeah, so just for the phone, so he said intuitive and over can see easier what you're looking at pretty easily. Anyone else? Any thoughts up there?
It's awful for touch devices where you don't have a mouse.
Yes, yes, the touch devices, yeah, because there's a sensitivity of, and even when you go from, it seems like it's the same image, like it's like depending on where you start in, it's going to be a different image. And so does the image thing help, do you think, like when you go over it, like, or is that just distracting? I'm hearing distracting over there, yes, yes. What about the concept of not having the access there all the time, where you have to sort of highlight over it to actually see the access? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't like it.
No, you don't mind? See, like this is something for me, like I get angry with this. I'm like, no, because I'm like, I can't see what this is. Like, I don't know where I'm, like I want to just like get to something fast. That's my nature. And so when for me, that's something that irks me, but I know that some people like really clean data visualizations too. And so less lines, less things are better. Any other things with this one that you think they could do better to make this visualization better?
Well, it doesn't start from zero.
Mm-hmm.
From the bottom. You have a line in the middle.
Yeah.
Is any kind of meaning for that? Or? Yeah,
so a lot of their meaning, I think they're putting into, you're right, they're trying to put stuff into text in different places, and some of the stuff, it's been a little while since I read through the whole thing, but yeah, some of the things are really put into text, but it's when you're on the same screen, you're having to go up and down to like look, okay, what's that say? What's this? It's not like it's right there. So you're right, like adding some more meaning right to where the visualization you're looking at makes sense.
My question was about the graphic doesn't start from the bottom. You see.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
It's a different question.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it doesn't start from the bottom. It's got the above and below. And I'm trying to remember on this.
Female and male.
What's that?
Female and male.
Yeah, female and male with this. Yes.
See that on the left.
So, and then even the idea of like sticking female versus male, one on top, one on bottom. Is there some psychology that you're going to have with it? Yeah.
And it solve the different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's things to think about when you're doing it, right? So, yeah. Anything else on this one? Feeling? We'll move on to the next one if not. Okay. So this is one that it's very bright. Yes, this is the color it comes with. So this is actually roadkills that, across the world in different places. So when you'll scroll on something, you'll find, okay, so Egypt, there's average of 12.8 deaths, and it has different metrics of, why those roadkills occurred, how many of those were from cars, motorcycles, bikes, pedestrians, etc. And then you actually click on it, and I'm trying to think of, there's actually some stories that you'll get to on what happened there, some information there. And but of course there's a lot of yellow, but other than, well, first of all, color. I mean, color is so popular in DataVis of like talking about color. I mean, does this work for you? Yellow?
No.
Okay. I know I have that same feeling, but just had to.
If that map is about car accidents, white water as color.
Yes, it's the wrong emphasis.
Color of the scale.
Yes.
It's upside down.
Yes.
And again, there should be a very strong reason for such a strong yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the connection.
Yeah. So you take away the yellow, and what would you do to make the color better here? What would you use? I mean, what kind of scale would you use, do you think?
The more black, the more number of accidents or more critical role.
Mm-hmm.
I think is reverse scale in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so reversing the scale, it makes sense. What about, so these things are very common, like the tooltips when you're scrolling over things, right? How's this tooltip look? Does this make sense intuitive? Yeah.
Not really, you should have the legend in front of the bar, because you have to look at it. I can't see really from where I am.
Okay.
By the way, I would expect the bar to be in front of
Oh, but before, yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I'm trying to think if this, so speed, helmet, seatbelt, alcohol. Yeah, so you'd want it tied with, yeah. Anything else on the tooltip? Because more and more, I mean, tooltips are a really good thing with DataVis to, so you're not having just too many things. You can, people can only process so much at a single time. So a tooltip's good. Would you think both of these levels of information make sense in the same tooltip, where you have the law, speed, helmet, and that, and also the category type, or would you separate that out? Because you have a lot of information. This is a tooltip with a lot of information there. Would you separate that out, or would you think everything there is still sufficient information?
I would source it out, because it would be like, for example, really interesting to also compare how many. I mean, you have the comparison of the roadkill all over the world. If I want to compare, for example, because it's funny, how many pedestrians killed animals somewhere. So I can't look on this and specifically on the whole map. So I just have to click on one, see it there, and open another one, compare. And even I think the comparison of the yellow bars and things, I don't guess it on one glance, for example. I don't know if the order is different, that always the highest with the most codes, I think it's always cars. It's first, or if it's switched, I think more motor bicycles killing the animals. And even how do they come up with the bar charts? Is it always just comparing this specific thing with the highest to the lowest, or is it like the whole word comparing these bar charts? So it's for me not hard to guess, so it's hard to follow if you make it.
Any other thoughts on this one before we move to the next?
I'm not really sure if you need a map for that information, because the geographical span that you have is not that good. You have a lot of space with the Antarctica or stuff like that.
Yeah.
That you really need it there. Maybe the map isn't
the best choice. Yeah.
Best choice for
Yeah, so maps are great when they make sense, but sometimes you just are trying to over-engineer it, so that makes sense. Okay, so here's one that we had, and sorry, because this is a U.S. focus because it's by states, but we probably had the most discussion in our DataVis group that we had on this one that we've ever had, at least in the last couple of years that I remember. So give you a little context. The idea here is where people move from, so where you're born and where you're going to, like if you were born in California and you moved to New York, so and when that happened over time of history, so it goes from 1900 to 2012. And so you'd say, okay, so how many people stayed in Iowa, what percentage, and how many people moved to California, and you see over this period it was pretty high, and then it got smaller and smaller, and the order of it on which one's highest and lowest, how they do the switching, is like the highest percentage at that time, so in that year, so there's this switching back and forth. What are people's thoughts on this? Because I'm seeing a nod there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it looks really interesting because of the organic look and feel, because of the colors, but I didn't get it. But it looks very interesting. And I would like to figure it out, but now I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, this has got like a ton of information over 100 years of like where people are moving in like 50 states, and then you're aggregating some stuff together, like the colors, a lot of, and it should also scroll down a little bit. You can see there's this little map too that indicates colors, so that's what that's going to. So depending on the region of the country.
I kind of like that kind of, you can actually see the flow, some difference going up and down. But is there a meaning to the colors?
So the colors is just the like West Coast, Midwest. It's not just it's a region. So it's that little map. So there's 4 colors depending on which region of the country it is. So it's basically, it's trying to give an idea of not just state by state movement, but also region by region movement. Okay. Okay. Like any other, anyone in the back? Because I know there's a lot of folks in the back. Someone's got to have some opinion back there. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, so like being able to adjust the color, that would make more sense, yeah. And even like, do you adjust the states? Like, I mean, does that geographic, I mean, just dividing into 4 geographies, does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else on this one? So like if you're applying this to Europe and, or just even Portugal itself and saying different areas of Portugal were movement. What would you do different here? Would you stick all the years in the same thing, the 110 years, or would you? Is that too much for the history, or is that good? That
there's one thing that puzzles me is the same amount. It looks like it has always the same amount of people. It's due to the scale, of course, but it makes a difference depending on how many people are in the specific place at the time.
Yeah, because it does it on a percentage basis, but you're right. So could you switch it to people? Because then you'd see it different with time, because like percentage maybe, but it was a small amount.
The first 100% only represents 50% of the...
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Cool. And I want to be... When should the next one? I just want to be respectful.
One last one.
Okay, one more? Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so this last one, this is... Let's see here. Okay, this one's a little different, and it's actually with satellites. So it has satellites by countries. It's back in 2015, I think this thing was done. And so it has an idea of weight of satellites, location, and also where in the atmosphere those satellites were. And you can, scroll on one and whoops, let's go to this one that you can actually see the whole thing. And I'll give the purpose of it, which country, when it was launched, how it was launched, things like that, who's using it. And so you've got a lot of satellites, it says, at least that's the first thing when I saw this. What are your thoughts with a visualization like this? What do you get out of it? Oh, yeah. Sorry. So anyone up here that can see it, thoughts on this one?
You can see that there are a lot of satellites, but the meaning of that.
Some are very constant.
What's that?
Some are very constant. There is like lines.
Yeah.
Is it time?
So I think part of it's altitude, like how high things are launched. There's like 4 or 5 different levels of sort of like where our satellites are placed in orbit, like how high up. And I think the other thing is, and there's also a weight component, and then there's also a, I believe it's time component. If I'm, yeah, this is actually is it time? I'm trying to remember. No, this one isn't time. I think it's weight and also how high the trajectory. And if you scroll down here more, it segments into like medium Earth orbit, geostationary orbit, high Earth orbit. It sort of gets lost like when you just go through this. Like there's a lot. So how would we restructure this if we wanted to give information on satellites and who's launched them, where they're being launched? How would we do this better to let people process that information? What would you use instead?
Maybe a 3D view of the planet with all the satellites around. You can rotate the planet and see all the satellites in a specific location by altitude, playing with the size circles and the color.
Somewhere in there.
There's such thing already existing, but I don't get the name right now. It's about the pollution around our Earth and the orbit, and you see all the satellites. You can zoom out around, you can track it, and it's way more better things. So.
Cool.
It depends on the message you want to give.
Exactly.
The message is it's cluttered. You've done it.
Yeah, exactly. If it's the main purpose.
Yeah, but if that's the main purpose, then you're spending a lot of effort to say things are cluttered, and like maybe a satellite, like a globe with like satellites all around would say cluttered, and would give, like it's hard to relate there, right? Like I don't relate that to the globe and myself, so having the globe with satellites all around, that would be better for that even, I think.
But if there was a small image of the globe with the levels easy to pick, and then appear for each level the satellites, it will help a little to understand, then to put on in one page, one level behind below the other. Maybe with some small chart of the planet with some lines.
Okay, no, that's good. It's be cleaner, definitely. Anyone else? Anyone in the back? I want to make sure get the back involved too. Oh.
Maybe they could do something to explore the information and additive system when you start with nothing and add something to it.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, you have everything, but not everything directly.
Makes sense. Well, cool. So I know there's a couple other great sessions today, but this is just a good thing as you're going and learning from others. And we do a lot of these. We see in New York Times and really good ones, but we also say, well, how would you recraft existing data visualization? So thanks everyone for the time, and look forward to meeting some of you afterwards.
Thank you very much. And, yeah. So if you're interested, I'm pretty sure maybe you can send me the links. We can put them all up if you want to look them up later again. What is happening here? Who's grabbing my Who's grabbing my screen? Not yet. Go out of here.
Yeah, I stopped.
Thanks. So that's coming up later. Why is it not out here? That looks good so far. So yeah, but first, before we introduce to totally, here are 2 more seats on the front. I see 1 more chair there. There's something on the wall, so maybe you want to first look if you want to get seated before we start. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just come in front. I think there's also somewhere here 2 more seats in front, so that you don't have to stay during the session. Yeah, there's 1 more. There's 1 more thing you can look around there. You can still see something. So it's just an offer that you don't have to stay for next half an hour.
So yeah,
and then
let's continue. So we'll not introduce ourselves, I guess. We'll be around anyway. So, but we are 2 enthusiasts about data visualization that met in Germany during a conference and decided to create this meetup. It's going great, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be around, and let's introduce the first speaker.
Yeah. Do you mind if I make a picture of you all? Would not like make the hand in front of their face or something, because it looks just awesome. So many people here. So thanks for that. So it's done. So I will switch over and introduce the first speaker. It's Sandra Becker, and Sandra is a visual researcher with more than 10 years of experience already in designing analytical solutions within social and trend research. So visual research can be done with different mediums, including artistic ones, to reveal information around, about, and behind mediums. And Sandra discovered the power of data visualization, found her focus and her love for D3. Since then, she works, learns, experience, and also teaches D3. Even it isn't easy and sometimes pretty painful in the beginning. Nonetheless, she will show you and explain you why it's totally worth it to start with D3. And just enjoy her talk. No, wait, I have to get out. It's so complicated. How do
Okay, great. Okay, can you all hear me? That's the most important thing. Okay.
You have to move your laptop.
Oops. Yeah, in a visualization meetup, you should see. Okay, before I start, some organizational stuff. This presentation is online. I will put the link later in the meetup group, so you have all the links, all the information there. And you can give me a heart, because as you might see in the presentation, I love hearts and I need hearts. So you can also, if you like it, you can give me a heart. Okay, let's go super quickly because I have only 30 minutes. And I'm not sure if I manage in 30 minutes. Okay, so what's the objective of this talk? First, I want to introduce you to this amazing, wonderful, super world of D3, because it's actually really mind-blowing. Anyone here, before I start maybe, anyone here works with D3? Okay, and you are as passionate as I am? or maybe not. I will come to this because there might be some problems. But anyone, you all heard about D3? Yeah, okay, that's great already. Okay, so, and then the final goal is similar as these girls doing with this great meetup. We want to also create a community around D3 here in Lisbon, because coding D3 alone is not fun and is super difficult. So the idea is we will talk about this to make more sessions, like this week code camp you might know, and just code together, okay? And if you're interested, I just created a really simple Google Sheet, so you can put your name and your email, and then we can start coming together and learn from each other. Okay, so D3, DDD. Some of you might know where this stands for. I changed a bit the meaning, and I called it diversity, do-it-yourself, and debate. Because, yeah, this is basically what D3 is about, okay? So D3 is so generalized that you can do whatever you want with this. It's like really, it's a paradise, but it's also a little bit anarchistic, okay? So because you have all the possibilities, also it's sometimes difficult to understand how this world works. But I see it more as a positive thing to have this freedom. It's all about do it yourself. So there's no click, there is no standard solution. It's you doing it. That's why communities. And it's also debate. Okay, so if you start using D3, you will realize that there's a lot of discussion, a little bit like we've seen here, but also a little bit about the usage in general. Okay, so why, what, and how? Mike Bostock is the creator of D3, and he puts it into just one slogan. He said it's efficient manipulation of documents driven, of documents based on data. So what does this mean? This means actually if you go to a web page, everything what you see on a web page are basically documents. So an image, a circle, a text, everything is documents. But what we want to do is we want to connect these documents on web page with our data, okay? And data are normally handled somewhere else. So in this case, data is handled by JavaScript, but the web page environment is front end. So it's HTML, CSS, and so on. And D3 is just in the middle of these two worlds. And before D3, that's why there's this word efficient. Before D3, there were other libraries doing this, but not really efficient. So D3, really, like if you ever look in the library, how D3, how complicated the code of D3 is, you realize how much work is done just thanks to this library, okay? So the library is really like connecting the front-end world, web page, web designer, all this with JavaScript and data manipulation and data treatment, so that we can create data visualizations. Yeah, so that's the word actually. But if we sum up what it is, it's absolutely not a charting tool. And this is the first reason for frustration using D3, because a lot of people misunderstand and they think, oh, they see these amazing visualizations and think, well, I'll just learn a little bit and then I do the same. No. So you actually have to learn quite a lot. Some of you might know the learning curve is something like this. So for a long, long time, you have the feeling you learn absolutely nothing. And then suddenly you have the feeling you understand the whole universe. Okay, that's this moment. But the majority gives up before, and that's a little bit sad. And that's why I'm here, and the community needs to be built so that we are not giving up. Okay, it's open source. You never need to pay for it. That's amazing. Yeah. So in not any moment, poor people, rich people, everyone can use it. For me, that's something really important. It's based on community development. Community development means, if you know a little bit about data science, you might have realized that now Python is everywhere. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I did SAS, I did analysis with SAS. This was a paid software handled by a company. But if you have like open source and the community is growing and developing on top, at some point, the development gets just exponential because everyone is developing on everyone. Yeah, so it's just going crazy. And this is what we hope, and it seems a bit is happening, let's say not in the D3 world, but in the JavaScript front-end world. it's a philosophy. If you learn D3, you also learn visualization. And you learn it at the most basic level you can think of, because you have to write everything on your own. And it's really nice because you really understand what visualization is actually about. And this is something, if you just go to click, 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 most often the people don't even know what is a scaling. Okay, so they just put a chart and they don't even know which scale is used. And so often linear scaling is, for example, not the right thing, and people don't even know what linear scaling is. Okay, so if you learn D3, you also learn visualization and what possibilities you actually have. It's an amazing idea. I already said this. It's also the top 10 GitHub project, so you can check it out. So let's get started. I don't have time. Neither is this the objective to teach you D3 today, but just an idea, so also people that never have seen this before, in the heart of D3 is selection. Because as I said, you have like front-end world, you have it here, you have JavaScript here. So what you need, obviously, is you need to select from here and bring it to the data from there. Okay, so the selection is always in the heart. And as Mike said, selection is already the weirdest part of D3. So if you understand selection, I don't agree really with this, but if you already understand selection, it's okay. So selection, if you go to this code, some of you that are familiar with front-end realize there's some HTML, there's some CSS, and this is also, that's why I think there are so many women in this field, because if you're stressed out by handling different things at the same time, don't go to D3, okay? Because D3 means like talking 4 languages at the same time. You need to understand HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then D3 on its own. And sometimes even some more libraries. And the select part is basically this, okay? So you select the body and you append the SVG. Then you append to the SVG a rectangle and you just define the attributes, okay? So that's the most basic code you will always need, because if you don't select anything, you can't do anything, okay? And then coming to a little bit more advanced example. So if you're vegan like me, you are super happy just seeing the line growing, because this is the number of restaurants, vegan restaurants in the world. Okay, so that's a little bit of animation, because the reason why we use web visualization is because we want to do something dynamic. Okay, it makes no sense at all to do a static visualization with D3. So why? You know, then there might be like R and Python might be even better. And if you look at this code, this is already a little bit more advanced. So you see there's a lot of CSS, there's a lot of HTML, we create like paragraphs, buttons, and so on. And then we have here actually the JavaScript. Okay, so we have access, we have scaling, as I said, linear, logarithmic, all these things you define on your own. Okay, as I said, I don't have time, but this is something you will learn. And the good thing is, when you learn D3, it's like learning a language. I mean, a normal language. I don't know if I assume you all speak so well, because in Portugal, the people speak so many languages. So you know how difficult it is in the beginning. And you know that understanding a language is always easier than speaking a language, right? It's the same with D3. And I have one good thing for you. You don't need to speak D3. So you don't need to write D3. You only need to understand it. Because let's say like 10 people in the world really write D3 code without ever looking at examples. Okay, this number I just made up, but I think it's not more, yeah? Okay. So the relationship we have with D3, most of the people that work with it, is sometimes we love it and sometimes we hate it. Because we love it because we can do so many things with it, and it's just amazing what other people do with it, and then you go on top and someone goes on top of your example and it's just going like insane. But there's also this moment when just nothing works, and you start with, I hate D3, then you hate JavaScript, then you hate HTML, and then you hate the whole internet, and you just close to a nervous breakdown, and then everything works, and you're happy again. Okay, so that's a little bit the problem, and that's why we need community, because just asking, like a friend of mine who is a super programmer, I just ask him sometimes things and he just did and it's done. Okay, so if we come together, we can learn from each other. That's a little bit the idea. You have some nice articles here about this topic. So why is it not a data visualization library? And then another one, the trouble with D3. And here it's actually really nice because you can choose who you are. If you're a designer, most likely all this will be your problems. If you're an analyst, all this will be your problems. And if you are a software engineer, all this will be your problems, okay? So how to handle it. And then, of course, you have help. So you're not alone with this problem. So you have this amazing book. It's on the web. You can check it out with the links. And you have here the whole code. I really recommend you to download the code and then open it in the editor. I'm not going to do this now. I'm also teaching. If you want to learn like with someone, then get in touch. But if you learn on your own, this is a really good way. You have this amazing guide. That's another presentation. And this university is also publishing their whole course. And this is a really nice course because it's the latest version. Okay, so this is actually using version 5, even though we are close to version 6. So yeah, that's the problem with the versions also, no? You always need to be updated. Okay, but that's more or less what D3 is about. But then, so as I said, it's based on community. And based on community is amazing if there is a community. So in the beginning, there was nothing really. Like in the beginning, the people were a little bit alone, doing everything like on their own. But then some people came up with amazing ideas. And one amazing idea is the block builder. Anyone who works with D3 using the block builder? Yes. So what's the block builder? The block builder is like an online editor. Yeah, so you can write your code here. But the good thing is it's actually shareable and searchable. Okay, so if I now, as I said, I could just write my code. No one is doing this. So I'm searching. I'm searching what others have already done. Yeah, and if I see, for example, this one, I just do a click. It's opening up in my block builder. I see, oh, great, this is exactly what I want to do, which also normally is not the case, but it doesn't matter. So I fork it, and then I change it. And then I publish it, and then someone else forks it. Okay, that's the whole idea of community development. So now I have the code, yeah, and I can check it out and change it. And in this search option, you also have the possibility to search for a specific person, like a specific D3 API. So if you want to learn something in particular, modules. And the good thing is you can even filter on the version. So if you don't know version 5, but already for version 4, you just search for the examples. So this block builder is really, really, really great. And the nice thing is also it's connected to your GitHub. So whatever you do on the block builder, it's automatically in your GitHub. And like the block builder is really, if you work in data visualization, it's kind of your LinkedIn, yeah? Because you can just send the link and this is all the work you've done or you forked and built on top. And then he created, even the same person who did the block builder, he did this block, which is like a never-ending data visualization wall. Yeah, you can just go here if you're lost and need some inspiration and see what other people are doing with their time. And then you see something, you open it, and it directly again opens in your block builder. Okay, and then you work on top of it. So this is how you work with D3, at least in the beginning. If you are working already like 5 years plus, you might write your own code now. But in the beginning, it's really good to use examples to fork them and then build on top. But the nice thing is also, as it is a library, as it is open source, other people come up with other ideas to build new libraries on top of D3. Okay, so not only can we use examples from other people and build on top, we can also use D3 as a library and build other libraries on top. Okay, so that's, and you might, if you are in data visualization, you might have heard of Suzy Lu. She's amazing, she's doing really great work, and she created this D3 annotation library on top of D3. So You just download D3, and then you have here some explanation of how it works. I can't go into this because of the time. This would be also in the course if you are interested. And then you have some examples here. Yeah, and if you click on one example, again, it's directly the block builder. Okay, so you see it's a library to make these annotations. Okay, it's quite easy, and it's built on top of D3. And then you can, like, easily, if you have networks or something like this, you can just easily add your annotations. Okay, it's really, really nice. She now works together with this other guy, and they created this Vis palette, which is about colors, the really problematic topic, colors. And here, what you can do is you can check your colors. You can check your colors in different chart types. So you might all know Color Brewer, right? It's a tool to find color codes, and we have another blog showing all the different color codes. You can just copy all this code before you start doing your visualization and checking it, how will it look like? So you put it here, replace, and then you have your charts. And then you see how it will look like. And you can even go and say, actually my background will be in any case black, because this is today the trend, right? Everything is black. And then on the bottom, you have, visually of course, explain which colors will be problematic together. Okay, so you can even delete the colors. In this example, it's so normal that so many colors are problematic because it's a grading color, right? So it's normal that they are conflicting. But if you have like categorical colors, it shouldn't be, okay? So you can always check here which color is a problem with another color in terms of distinguishing both of them. So it's a really great tool, again, built on top in order to work with D3 more easily. Yeah? Okay, I just go quickly, yeah? Then we have observable. And observable is really nice, but also even more crazy. Like so observable is a notebook, yeah, handling all the D3 code. Because the problem with D3 is so often that the code is difficult, and notebooks are always there to explain code, to make it more understandable. The developers, the main developers of D3, they created Observable, I think, a year ago. And now it's really like the main focus. So Observable is not only a tool to make notebooks around D3 and around visualization, you also can use it to just explain techniques, okay? So, for example, here they create HTML, they just whatever, you know? It's really like totally open, whatever you want to do. But of course, the main focus is still visualization, okay? So you have like notebooks here about visualization, and now they created even the category D3 so that you can learn with observable D3, okay? So you have, anyone here knows what a notebook is? Everybody, I mean. Sorry, I changed the name. Everybody here knows it, or someone is lost when I say notebook? No one wants to say no, I'm lost. Yeah, I understand. Well, notebook is basically, it's like showing in all together the code. You could also write some text and so on. And interesting, some people think, oh yeah, great, I have the observable and I have all the code and I have all the visualization, but how do I get this in my web page? You can just download it here, yeah? So you download it. I did it before. Then you go to your local host, and you just, for example, this one is observable. Okay, so it's also on a web page. Because then if I download, it will be transformed into normal JavaScript code. So you can work with observable the same way as you work with D3. It's just a little bit more handy because it's really like explaining the code. The only issue is it's a different library. Okay, so again, you need to learn. Here you have the API So you need to learn some things, but it's really similar to D3. If you know D3, observable won't be a problem for you. Okay. And then some nice guys from Berlin, they created this awesome D3 list with a lot of links, to help you understanding D3 and understand. And then they created this nice discovery tool. Because as I said, like D3 itself is just an environment where other people build on top. And because we have so many languages, we have React, we have Angular, we have so many different things, you know that D3 and React, D3 and Angular, and all this, and you have so many tools. So they created this D3 discovery page where you can basically, also for the Vega, you have a lot of tools here, okay, to learn this. It's a really nice one. You can search for categories like maps and so on. So this is all built on top of D3, right? So that's even broader the world. And if you want to join the community, there's a global Slack community. I put you here the link to join. Really nice people. Okay, really quickly, some examples. So the whole idea about D3 is bringing data to life, because data itself means nothing. Okay, I'm really surprised when always people say, where are the insights in my data? Data is nothing. Data is a representation of our world. So we use data as proxies to understand our world. And we need to bring this to alive, because the reason why we do visualization is to detect patterns. Okay, not to visualize. We don't do a visualization to show a bar chart. And if you see bars, the visualization has not worked. So you should see what's behind the bars, which is the real information, right? If you see patterns and if you are directly engaged, then the visualization has worked. So bringing data to life in this context also means we are talking about web visualization. And the real advantage of web is dynamics. So why do we not use this dynamics? And one dynamic is animation, okay? And animation is obviously not PowerPoint animation, yeah, okay? So we can do a lot with animation. We can, for example, a friend did this one. It's super simple, but it's just telling the story through the animation, okay? So this is like GDP growth in the last years. And if you look at this bar chart animated, you get frustrated at some point, because we are all not from China. Yeah, and it's really slow. It's not so slow in reality. Anyway, so you see like here, this one is climbing and climbing and climbing. So you don't need to say a lot. The animation, and it's such a simple animation. It's not even complex, but it's just telling the story. Like now you can see it. It's just telling the story through the animation. You can also do a prediction, but I don't recommend it. It's really frustrating. It's also based on the last 5 years, okay? So maybe the prediction is not the best. But what you can see is animating a chart and using time is always the variable we use, is telling most often the story on its own. So we don't need to do anything, right? You can even do a GIF. So if you have, it's animated, you can create a GIF, and then the GIF is just telling the story, right? So in this case, it shows like an overlap, a map, where the people walk and where the people stay, where the people live. And you just look at the map, and it's again time. Okay, time is just passing, and you see through the day where they are based. Okay, it's a GIF, it's like 5 seconds, and you understand the pattern. And then you can even use animation as an introduction to your story. Like in this project, it's about drones, and who and how, not how, but how many and who they have killed. So how effective they are. And what you see in this animation, it's basically introducing the visualization and the topic itself. Okay, so that's the title. Now we have the axis. Now we will see the visual encoding, which is color. And now the animation starts again with time. Okay, so it shows the first case. And you see like all the time animated how many of the different groups were actually killed. And what you see is that in the beginning, it was super effective because a lot of children were killed. And then through the time, if you want to call this effective, I don't know, it gets more, at least it kills the people it should kill. Okay, so you can see this here on top. All animation. So animation is telling the whole story, right? So I don't need to say a lot. And then you have this really nice animation. I mix examples, so it's like data journalism, but it's also like coding examples. So I mix it so that you can see the whole world of this. So here we have what is so often the case if you also work in data science. We do a lot of models to understand what is the reason behind something, right? And then we have the model done, and then we need to explain the model. And how do we do? Well, we could show the whole process of the model. So often so interesting. So in this case, the model was, what is actually causing the global warming? And to show that there is global warming, I don't need to say anything, you just look at the line. Okay, so the line is saying it on its own. And now, why not going through all the different factors we assume they are causing it? And how we do it with animation. Okay, so we let the line like run, and we see both lines are not going in the same direction. So at least there's no correlation. And then we try the sun, we try the volcanoes. We all, it's all the animation telling the story. Maybe 3 factors together, because if you're in data science, you know that sometimes 3 factors together work, even though one single one is not. But still, all these 3 together, they are not explaining what is causing the global warming. And then you just go through this animation. You see no. I go fast, okay, because I think I'm already over the time. And then finally, well, it's greenhouse, okay? So what is this? So, but the thing is, it's only the animation that showed you this. I don't need to say anything, right? So we can use animation showing time, but we can also show animation and showing if there is a connection between lines and explain models. And this is something you do really easy in D3. And this is basically also the reason why we use D3, right? And then you have also animation, even to explain machine learning. You might have seen this because it's quite famous, right? So you can go through it at home. I don't have so much time left. But the animation is also explaining to you how you would build up the model. Okay, so you start with intuition, and then you start building the decision tree. Okay, so here you see the animation is showing you how the decision tree is built, and then how we let the data go and the trained data and so on. So the animation is showing you the whole model, right? I can also use it for this because we not always need to visualize results. We can also visualize process. We can visualize models. We can visualize algorithms. We can visualize so many things. Another really great example is this one, where the animation, so the topic is, it's about racism, and that it doesn't really matter if they are rich or poor. The black men seem to be always on the bad, on the unlucky side. Because if we see the rich ones, so the blue ones are the black people, and the yellow are the white people, and we see that it's more blue that fall again into the poor category, and then more down we have the opposite. Okay, so we have the poor people, and who is going up? So who is becoming rich? And you will see. The animation is a bit stopped, but you will see that again more white people make it up, okay? So the animation is showing you a pattern. Also really nice, the idea, right? So you see like a flow of people and in which categories they are going. Another way that animation is telling you the pattern. Animation is telling you the story. You realize maybe everything has to do with crawling. If you want to learn this, here's a really nice article from the pudding team about how to do scrolling animation. Okay, so it's all based on D3, but connected with scrolling. And then you also have, sometimes the pattern itself is moving. Like in this example, you have a day in the life of Americans. So what do people do during the whole day? And in this visualization, we have like the different categories. So we have sleeping, personal care, eating, traveling, and so on. And you see like through the day, it's again time. The variable we use for animation is time. Yeah, and we see like where they're going. So now they are going to work because it's becoming morning, right? And you see where the majority of the people is spending their day, right? So the animation is showing you the pattern over time. This would be impossible to show in a static visualization, right? So using animation not just to make it fancy, but to actually show pattern in the movement is the idea behind. And it's really funny. If you look at this for a longer time, you detect really strange patterns of some people, right? Like sleeping there in the morning, and yeah. But it's, yeah, that's how we live. So, and then you have the power of interaction. So you have the power of animation and you have the power of interaction, also dynamic. And here, this example is really nice. It's showing you different movies and how much these movies are telling the truth or are lying. So red is lying and blue is telling the truth. And again, the objective is to detect patterns, right? So we see, for example, the big shot is quite true, whereas like Hacksaw Ridge, I don't know even the movie, but it seems like they are lying a lot. So now interaction. What is cool with interaction? Sorting. Whenever you do interaction, use sorting because the people are always interested in the top 10, in the bottom 10. Yeah, this is something. So we want to see who are the most true. Okay, it's this one. And then we can, this is really nice, this interaction. It's connected to UX because visualization is for users most of the time. And users have an experience. And so many people ignore this. But actually, filters should be always coming from the user demand. And in this case, which filter did they put? So if you're really strict with the truth or not. Because if you say to someone, this movie is true, most likely they started discussing, yeah, but what is truth for you? For me, it's this. For me, it's this. So therefore, they just said, okay, we don't want this discussion. We just put a filter. So then someone can say absolute truth. And with absolute truth, we see like a lot of movies. Actually, there's one, this one, yeah, this I know at least. The Mission Game seems to not be really true, if we are quite strict. So this movie seemed to be not the real story of this. And then the next question is, once I detected this, I want to know, okay, if I see like, for example, let's say this one here, this, I see some wrong scenes and I want to know what is this scene. So now I do detail on demand. And now I get the full picture. So I get the real scene, I get the whole information. Okay, so interaction. After I detected the pattern, I want the detail on demand. How much time? Okay, then I just go quickly. You can go, this is another to understand visualizations. This is another one. Really, I need to at least. So here again, the pattern first, and then when you understand the pattern, you have the detail on demand. Yeah, always do detail on demand, depending on which information the people want. Okay, you go through it on your own. Maybe just this, because this is a typical one from the past. You remember when we had not dynamic visualizations, we always had like line charts with so many, like all the countries on this planet, and we didn't see anything. In this example, we are lucky because they all have the same movements, but most of the time it's not the case. But if you just add the interaction of highlighting, you are clean, okay? So I highlight the one I want to look at, and in the back I have the full scene. And here in this example, you just do the same thing.